Hey everybody. Today we're going to talk very briefly about what I have written down here. And it makes me laugh just trying to say it. Avoid knowing the things you don't. Also potentially phrased as don't marry yourself to the past you. Sort of trying to say the same thing here. And then once again, in maybe another form, if you know one thing, you know one thing. It doesn't mean that if you know one thing, you know all things. Because you don't. You don't, right? You just know the one thing, which is great, which is fantastic. But try not to conflate these things, because these are potentially where your troubles begin. In fact, there's this great show I'm watching, 3 Body Problem. If you haven't seen it, strongly recommend it. And one of the characters says, be careful about the things that you know. That's often where your problems begin. And I was beginning to explain this in the future of programming here. This is actually how I thought about this. I was actually just chatting with Cyber. In fact, if you haven't met Cyber, here's Cyber. Check out his site. He does really cool AI stuff and music and things. But he has this really profound comment on, well, he actually has multiple profound comments, but this is the one that we were talking about. I'm going to do a full episode on this cyborg thing, just not now. But his comment got me rewatching this to try to better understand what he was saying. And I got to this part in the future of programming, and I realized I meandered a little bit too far, as I do. I'm constantly going a little bit off script, sometimes like very off script. And in this case, I didn't go back, but I actually had something I was trying to say, and I want to say that now. And this is, as I think Cyber would argue, this is a bit more of a philosophical thing. It's like a philosophical VOD, I guess, as I think Cyber would call it. But I have seen this with technologists over and over and over again for the last 30 years. And I'm here to try to help people, someone, hopefully, to avoid this mistake or stop making this mistake, because it's likely hurting you in very profound ways. And it's super easy to do. I used to do it. I probably still do it, actually. I got to remind myself, like, stop doing that, Goju. You know better. It's a very easy thing to get wrong. It's sort of like eating your vegetables. Nobody necessarily wants to do it, but we all know we should do it. Sometimes we need to be reminded. And for those people that are hyper-disciplined, you probably don't make this mistake that often, and that's fantastic. And it likely leads to significantly more accelerated growth. And especially for those of you technologists, this is my experience, deeply related to technology. Deeply. One of the fastest ways, I think, to become a dinosaur in tech is, don't take my advice on this. Don't listen to me and keep doing this thing. So let me try to explain. In this episode, what I was trying to say is that you shouldn't necessarily marry yourself to ideas, especially when you don't know all the things that there are. And in particular, you may have started with something, and so you've learned a particular thing. Hold on, I gotta turn this volume down just a touch. I've got the music playing. Oh, here, by the way. This is actually maybe potentially a good example, at least for me anyway, is I'm meandering, but this is directly related to this topic, is I did the robot video and several people kind of privately complained to me saying, Goju, the echo, like, what is this? Kindergarten? And they're absolutely right. Deeply apologize to all of you for that. I'm a noob. What can I tell you? Like, I literally, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just trying to share the tech stuff, but I don't know about this whole VOD thing and creating a channel thing. I've never done this before. So I did a little research and voila. I guess this is what I'm supposed to be doing the whole time, is you have the... look, I know the beauty is I am following my own rule here. I don't think that I know. And so it opens up all this opportunity for me to learn stuff and then know. And so in this particular case, I finally think I understand why people wear these, or at least let me actually weaken that claim. I understand at least one very important use of these, which is to give me the audio feedback from the music or the computer or whatever, so I can hear that and know what's playing, like if I play a video, but know that it's not going to, hopefully, unless I get like this maybe, but hopefully not give feedback to the mic, which is why you were getting the echo last time. So whenever I do videos that are going to play music or videos simultaneously, I'll probably have these on. Coincidentally, I even bought these earlier because I thought that it was a thing to do, and then I was asking myself, what? I don't really need these things, because I wasn't getting the echo, and then turned the volume up a little too loud, and suddenly people are furious. So this is actually exactly what I'm talking about, is going in knowing that you don't know stuff is a superpower. Honestly, folks, it's a superpower because it allows you the opportunity to grow. And so I'm going to go very quickly back down the path I was going in this last video to talk about programming. And I feel like this is potentially a very important point for the people that probably don't want to hear it, which is a bummer, but hopefully somebody will hear it and it will maybe level them up. And this certainly levels me up because I need to be reminded of this all the time. So let's say the first programming language that you learn is C, and it has functions. And that's great. You learn functions, you learn the language, and wow, you're loving C. You spend a lot of time with it, and you understand how to program in it. But your aspirations is you want to be one of the best programmers in the world, right? Let's say. Now, for those of you that are just dabbling in programming, maybe this doesn't apply to you. But let's say that you really want to be like the best you can be. So then your friend says, you know, C is awesome, but C++ is kind of just like better. And you guys get into this deep philosophical debate. You're arguing about all these things, and it feels like it's a stalemate. And then your friend says, well, look, it's basically C with other stuff. So all the stuff that you love about C is in C++. But then there's other stuff in C++ that's not in C. Like they have classes, and classes can really help. And they have template metaprogramming, and that might be better than void pointers. I think that's a really hard one to be argued against. And I know there are diehard C lovers in the audience. I first learned C before C++. I still love C. And keep in mind, like, one of the things that I absolutely love about C++, which I don't love about Java, is C++ says, look, we're not going to be a fully object-oriented programming language because we respect the fact that sometimes you kind of just want a function and you just want a variable and you don't need like the heavyweightness of a class. I think actually, from my view, this is one of the reasons why I don't love Java. And it's not to say that Java doesn't have value. I think especially for very rigid security constrained spaces, the way Java is designed for like enterprise, I think can be super helpful. So anyway, all that being said, your friend says, but look, C++ is basically C plus other stuff. So you love C, and here's C. And then here's C++. So you can learn C++ and code in C++, and if you want to just do C, just do C. But then other people that like can do C++ stuff to make your stuff better, they might be able to level you up, and maybe one day you'll see the value in having some more, right? Like, I don't know if this is true anymore, but there was a time where C++ was a superset of C. And I guess maybe from a minimalistic perspective, one could try to argue that C is better because there's less stuff, right? I've heard this argument, but I feel like that is a little bit intellectually dishonest. I think that it is make-believe. It's a vacuous argument. It's something that you argue when you basically are saying, I just like it more. And what I'm trying to do here, the reason why I'm sharing this is my goal with GTT is not necessarily for anyone to like me, but to help all of us grow. And one of the best ways to grow is to be uncomfortable, to challenge yourself. And my view, at least for me personally, one of the best ways that I can challenge myself is I can learn new things. And if you have the opportunity to essentially say, look, I love C and I love learning, why not just learn C++ and then I can be better? And the truth is, I think that a lot of people run into this problem and it limits them. But I'm here to tell you that it doesn't need to. And I think that you could very well be limiting your potential in potentially profound ways if you follow this model, that the first thing you learn is what you marry yourself to. And that's the point about don't marry yourself to the past you, that when new information comes, if you reject it purely out of the fact that, well, I've always done it this way, I think that you may not be living to your full potential. And I want to show you one example of this for me personally, which I think many of you know. This is one side of my keyboard. And you may notice the keys. That is Dvorak. But I didn't learn Dvorak first. I first learned QWERTY. And then one of my very good friends said, listen, Goju, I know you love to learn and you're always trying to be more efficient. There's this other typing format that I think could make you better, but it's going to be really hard. It's going to be a lot of work, but it's this thing called Dvorak. You should check it out. And I did. I had a ton of skepticism. I deeply scrutinized it. I did not jump in head first. I looked at it. I thought about it. I tried to poke holes in it. And after being intellectually honest, very much like how I leveled up to C++, is I realized that even if the arguments of speed could be invalidated, even if QWERTY is as fast as Dvorak, which I would argue is fundamentally false, at least from my anecdotal experience. I could type at my fastest with me trying really, really hard and having spent like a decade trying to master typing, because I'm all about just trying to level up. My best, I think I was 75 words per minute. In Dvorak, when I'm really, really trying, 120 words a minute. Maybe if I really, really focus, maybe 130 words. And also the error that I had in QWERTY it was like near 20%. That's part of that is it's the way it's constructed. It's kind of meant to slow you down. So like the faster you get, the more likely you're going to have errors because of the way the keyboard's designed. Whereas Dvorak's designed sort of the opposite, was like it's meant, I mean, look, QWERTY was designed to prevent typewriters for jamming. That's really, that is the history-ish of QWERTY. There's probably more details, right? So I'm going to weaken that claim. But one of the key reasons is typewriters would jam. And so if you press the keys near same time, it'd get stuck, right? They'd come out ching and they're stuck. And so what they would do is set it up to where the likelihood of you pressing two keys from like either hand, so low likelihood, because the arms would come up like this, that it's designed so you principally are using one hand, and also the hand that is the least dexterous for most of us, which is your left hand. I happen to actually be a lefty. And just for the record, this is my left hand because my screen's inverted. So it probably looks like the right to you, but this is actually left. I'm actually a left-handed person. So I took that in consideration too. It's like, oh, I'm one of the small percentage of people that actually could leverage the layout of it being left-hand dominant. And even with that, I went and I learned Dvorak, and now I'm nearly double the speed. But back to the key differentiator is, even if the speed were the same, there is a ton of actual scientific research that shows Dvorak reduces carpal tunnel significantly because most of the typing is on home row. Most of it. And that's why if you look at the layout of the keyboard, you'll see that some of the most common letters are the things that you type on home row. So the letters here, D, H, T, and S. And then there's a couple that are slightly above, C and R, but they're principally for like these fingers, which are longer, right? These fingers. In fact, if you look at my hand, you'll see those two fingers, at least for me, are longer. And so they're considering that. Whereas like the M key is on, I think it's your index finger. Yeah, your index finger. And at least for me, my index finger is shorter than my middle finger and my ring finger. And so they put the M down here, not up here. Anyway, all of these things were design considerations in it. So it would improve your speed, but it would also reduce repetitive strain disorders like carpal tunnel. To the best of my knowledge, a lot of people don't type in Dvorak. And why is that? Most of the keyboards that exist today are QWERTY. I think it's just many people have kind of just accepted the status quo. Well, this is what we were given. I learned this, and I'm not going to spend the time learning it again. I think if you're going to type a lot, it probably makes sense to reconsider that decision. Very much like if you're going to program a lot and you learned in a language that's great, that you love, like C, but it just has functions. But then you have another language that has functions and all this other stuff, which is pretty hard to be arguing against if you're being intellectually honest. Like, really smart people, this is for all of you really smart people on GTT. I know you're out there, And I know that some of you love C and you don't love C++. And so you're putting together the counter arguments. And I can tell you right now, you've won. You've already won, because you can find holes in any argument that you want because you're super cerebral. But those holes are a bit pretend, because deep in your heart of hearts, if you're being intellectually honest, I'm talking about actually really being fair, not trying to win an argument so you can flex and be like, ha, told you C was better. I'm talking about actually listening to what is being said, being sincere in the way that you evaluate it, and then sharing that C++ is still not better than C. I do not see how that, and again, maybe I'm missing something. That's entirely possible, especially as the languages have evolved. So I don't want to trap myself, and I want to try to avoid knowing the things that I don't know. And I don't know the current state of C. But at one point, I did know the current state of C, and it was better. It was C++ was a superset of C. On top of that, unless things have changed, C doesn't have classes. And the benefit of classes, at least for large-scale software systems, I mean, why do all these languages that we use today, Go, Java, C#, Python, JavaScript, TypeScript, PHP, and keep going, right? I mean, like, this is insane. Why do all of these languages have classes if classes are no good? Again, it's common for there to be like a flash in the pan where people are kind of making bad decisions maybe in the moment, but then over time, mostly I think reason prevails. So an example of that is there was a time when people didn't have proper loops, and so they did this kind of thing. You have this label 1, then you have a whole bunch of code. And then you have this that says go to label 1. Not a joke. In the real world, people used to write code like this. And this is a really bad idea for a variety of reasons. Is that this concept of iteration should really be, at least in my mind, a first-class citizen. It should have proper constraints and elide away problems. Like, for example, if you wrote this and you said go to label 1 and you think you have a loop here, and then some person comes in and says, actually, go to label 37. And this code here, this is like 700 lines of code. Super hard to spot this other go to. This is kind of like one of the reasons why it's not such a great idea. Anyway, the point is that go-tos were a real thing until I think it was Edgar Dijkstra wrote a paper, and the paper, I think, is go-tos considered harmful. I think. I'm probably getting that wrong. That's true. By the way, this Promethean man, this was Cyber teaching me something, and I was learning what this Promethean man thing is. Okay, let's see. Go-tos considered harmful. Go-tos. Oh, okay, here. Maybe this was the paper. Go-to statement considered harmful. Go-to. Okay, who knows? Anyway, it's something like this, right? And so this paper, did Edgar Dijkstra? Yeah, okay, so yeah, Edgar Dijkstra wrote this. And then people read this paper, and then they were compelled. Because it's a very compelling argument. He used things like logic and stuff. very much like what I'm trying to do with the argument of how C++ is kind of just a superior language to C. Logically, not because I like the pluses, but for the same reasons that Edgar Dijkstra is arguing that you shouldn't use Goju statements, I would make the same argument that we should level up from C to C++. Now, I'm in no way saying that if you code in C, you're a bad person, all of this stuff. What I'm trying to get at, and probably doing a pretty poor job doing, is if you don't want to be a super coder and you don't want to be like the master of everything, just do whatever it is you're going to do. But to pretend that you know something and that this is a valid argument that C is a superior language to C++, at least from my perspective, I have yet to hear an actual logical argument on why this is the case. I've heard a lot of emotional arguments, but I'm not generally compelled by emotion or manipulated by emotion. This is sort of why I try to never be embarrassed, because that would be me letting my own emotions, kind of like a fear of what people think, to control me. And then I also try to never let anyone offend me, because that would allow my emotions to be controlled by others. And I don't want to give people that power. Like, so say whatever you want. Like, sure, I agree. I'm terrible. I'm awful. Okay. Already knew that. Next. So a similar thing is that the arguments that I've heard that C is better than C++, all the ones that I've heard, they've been emotional arguments, and I'm not compelled by emotion. If there's a logical argument out there, please drop it in the comments and tell me I'm wrong, and logically explain why it's superior, but try to be intellectually honest. I do actually think, just to be clear, I do think there are corner cases where C is potentially better than C++ when it comes to having a smaller surface area just in the grammar, because I believe that C++, because it's a superset, has a larger grammar. And so in cases like hyper constrained devices, like embedded computing, I can see in those slivers, like firmware and stuff, it could be that it's slightly smaller, so then the compiler is smaller, and then you don't have like a lookup table that's as big for the keywords. Just like if you're on a spaceship that has 64K of memory, like they did back in the day, maybe in those constrained spaces, C is better. But for all the other cases, the other 99.9% cases, I have yet to see the argument. Yet, I know a lot of people that have married themselves to the past them, that they learned C first, very much like I learned QWERTY first, and then someone told them about C++, and then rather than leveling themselves up to be better, to be a better version of themselves, to grow, they try to make a vacuous argument on why C is better that deep down all of us kind of know it's intellectually dishonest. And outside of those people, if you're watching GTT, I'm just wanted to do this video to encourage you to try to avoid this trap. It's easy to do, right? One of the hardest things in the world to do is to grow, to have a growth mindset, to acknowledge openly, I'm wrong. There's something I don't know. This is, I think, very hard for a lot of people, because it can be embarrassing. Don't be embarrassed. Nobody knows everything. I'm telling you, I know some of like the super people in technology. Secret, they don't know everything either. So the moment that you can just kind of get to the point where you are comfortable saying, I don't know everything, and that doesn't mean I am awful. It just means I don't know stuff. You can change that very easily. You just learn stuff, right? So, for example, Cyber is mentioning the Promethean man, and I mentioned in the comment back to him somewhere that he taught me a whole bunch of stuff. Oh, he left another comment. Yeah, I'm slowly learning. Oh no, this is my follow-up comment. Oh, here we go. My brain is growing by just reading what you've written. I know maybe 50% of the things you're mentioning here. I have a lot of reading to do. So I just want to be honest. I'm not just saying that. Then I just start learning. Because I just kind of want to know stuff. And my experience has been is once you can make this shift where you are no longer arguing indefensible positions and instead getting comfortable with the idea that the path of life is the pursuit of knowledge perpetually. You will never know all there is to know. And getting comfortable with that, it can be a superpower. It can be such a superpower because the truth is you're no longer beholden to your own ego. And by ego here, I mean your own insecurity. That's really what it is, right? It's just posturing of like, oh, I know what that is. Oh, I know this thing. Like, I don't know what that thing is, but I want to know. And I think what will often happen too is if you surround yourself with right people, these people won't judge you for not knowing things. They will respect much more your courage in being honest, that you were able to say that you didn't know something and look to them to teach you. Like the idea that you're of a certain age and you are the knower of all things because you're a professor or you're a CEO or whatever, this is also vacuous. I run GTT. It's my channel. How dare I have a viewer teach me new things? That's crazy. That's actually one of the key points of GTT. I want the audience to teach me new things. In fact, when I teach at the university, I tell the students right in the first lecture that one of the key things that we are going to do together is we're going to create a bidirectional arrow, that I'm going to teach them the stuff that I know, but they have to make a promise is that they're going to teach me the stuff that they learn in the class. And then I actually have them do that. And then they teach me. Like one of the professors at the uni that I look up to is Kunle Alakuten. And I've known Kunle for a while. And in one of the conversations I had with him, I said something like, Kunle, you're so humble, you just know so much stuff. And he said, well, the truth is, the hack that I have, which most of us professors have, is most of the stuff that we learn are actually from our students. It's not that we teach the students, it's actually that the students teach us. And I'm very much in the same position, is that in a very transparent and truly kind of selfish way, a big part of the reason why I created GTT is to attract people like Cyber or Untranslatable Metaphor or Empty Code and Vare and so on and so forth, and I think Geek Hardware. So then I can build up a birds of a feather, and then as a community, we can all teach each other. And so my goal is just to create a really, really strong signal and just keep pushing forward on that signal. And eventually, as they say in Field of Dreams, build it and they will come. So anyway, that's all I want to share for today. I hope this was helpful for somebody. My apologies if I came off a little fiery, but I'm a passionate, fiery guy, I guess. So hopefully this reinforces something that maybe you already knew, or if this is new, maybe this unlocks you for the future. I'd love to hear any feedback you guys have, including anyone that disagrees with me. I love to have logical, open discourse, which is, I think, one of the best ways to learn. Okay, keep growing.